Hi everyone! Today we're going to analyze a real model answer together, sentence by sentence, and we will break down why this essay works and what you can steal for your own writing. Let's go! So the prompt is, some people argue that it's not wise for an industry to replace its experienced but old workers with new and young yet unexperienced individuals. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So the question is an opinion essay, which means that we need to choose only one side and then provide two main arguments with some examples. Now let's get started with introduction. The writer gives us two alternative introductions. Both are excellent, so let's look at both. Option 1. Nowadays, almost every company tends to retire its employees once they have reached a certain age. I completely agree with this practice and believe elderly staff need to be replaced with younger workers despite the difference in their work experience. What makes this work? First, the opening sentence paraphrases the question without copying it, like tends to retire its employees, replace its experienced workers. And second, the writer states their opinion immediately and strongly, like I completely agree. No hesitation, no hedging. That clarity is exactly what gets your marks for task achievement. Option 2. In the past, people often worked in their businesses until they died or were no longer able to continue, whereas today, most industries have set a definite retirement age for their employees. I think replacing elderly staff with young recruits is a wise practice. This version is slightly more sophisticated. It uses a historical contrast to set up the argument, which makes the introduction feel more engaging. Both approaches are correct, but option 2 shows slightly more lexical range. So yeah, for the introduction, you just need to state your opinion in the introduction and don't make the examiner wait. Now let's look for the body paragraph 1. First and foremost, a large majority of workers lose their strength as they become older. This is mainly because the human body has limits, and working for a long time, say 30 or 35 years, can affect it negatively. For example, young industrial workers tend to work for 5 to 6 hours before they take breaks, while older ones usually need to rest every 1 or 2 hours. This means that productivity levels would certainly decline. Let's break this down. First and foremost, a strong discourse marker that signals the most important point. This is mainly because the writer immediately explains why, not just what. This is the difference between a weak and strong paragraph. Always explain your reasoning. And then the author also provides example. For example, young industrial workers tend to work for 5 to 6 hours and so on. Notice how specific this example is. Not just young workers work longer or etc., but actual numbers. 5 to 6 hours versus 1 to 2 hours. Specific detail makes arguments convincing and show strong lexical control. And then this meant that productivity levels would certainly decline. It's like a consequences sentence. This links the example back to the main point. Every body paragraph should end by connecting back to your argument. This is called a wrap up or consequence sentence, and it's what makes paragraphs feel complete. Body paragraph 2. Furthermore, new employment opportunities for young people are very limited. Most companies do not offer more than a few new jobs every year and try not to increase their staff members dramatically to keep expenses low. Consequently, they should definitely lay off some of the older personnel to make room for younger ones, especially those around 20 to 30 years old who are about to form families and support them. Here you can see some good words, like furthermore, a different discourse marker from first and foremost. Never repeat your linking phrases, by the way, and use variety like furthermore, moreover, in addition, additionally, and so on. To keep expenses low, the writer gives a reason why companies don't create many new jobs. This adds depth. It's not just a statement, it's explained. And then he also gives some numbers like 20 and 30 and so on. This is a brilliant move. The writer adds an emotional, human dimension to the argument. It's not just about economics, it's about young families. This kind of detail makes writing feel mature and persuasive. Now for the body paragraph 3. Finally, the experience and skills of old workers is usually out of date. They might have a lot of experience with old technology and machines, but their employers constantly need to upgrade their equipment and methods. Therefore, it's less likely that old workers' abilities are necessary in the long run, and younger workers who know how to operate modern machines such as computers and ladders can replace them. Key observations from this paragraph. Finally, signals we're reaching the last argument. Good use of sequencing, like first we used first and foremost, furthermore, and then finally. They might have a lot of experience, but this is a concession structure. The writer acknowledges a positive aspect of older workers, their experience, before pivoting to undermine it. This shows sophisticated thinking and earns marks for coherence. And then it was also the writer also used a good idiomatic phrase like in the long run. The examiner rewards natural, fluent language. And for the body paragraph, that's it. 3 body paragraphs, 3 completely different arguments, and no overlapping ideas. That's the mark of excellent planning. And for the conclusion, in conclusion, I think companies need to force their elderly workforce to retire and employ younger workers to replace them to improve productivity, have up-to-date workers, and provide jobs for young people. Clean, tight, and effective. In just 22 words, the writer opens with, in conclusion, a clear signal, restate their positions, lists all 3 reasons from the body paragraphs. No new ideas here, no repetition of exact wording from the body. This is exactly what the conclusion should do. And that's it for today. That's how you need to write a high-scoring opinion essay. Practice these techniques with different topics, and they will become second nature. Good luck, and see you